Welcome to the Transum Podcast, a monthly roundup of the new features on the transum.org website, providing mathematical puzzles, games, learning activities, and the ever-popular mathematics lesson starter of the day. Here's your host, John Tranter.
Hello and welcome to podcast number 36. You're very welcome. And this month we have a distinctly sheepish theme. You'll see why in a moment. But we'll start off with the puzzle of the month. And it is about Percy Cod and Patsy Eel, who are both shepherds. They keep sheep in adjacent fields near the source of the River Mint. Can you work out how many sheep each person owns from the following clues? If Percy sold 7 sheep to Patsy, both shepherds would have the same number of sheep. But if Patsy sold 7 sheep to Percy, then Percy would have exactly twice as many sheep as Patsy. So while you're thinking about that, doing whatever you do when you listen to the Transum podcast, I'll go on with other sheepish things, and the answer will be at the end of this podcast. Incidentally, all of the links of the things that I refer to in the podcast can be found at transum.org/newsletter. So, talking of sheep, there is an activity that's been on the Transum website for some time now about estimating the number of sheep in a field. And what you have to do is you have a limited amount of time to work out how many little cartoon sheep you can see in the field. And the computer scores you on the closeness of your estimate and the amount of time it took you to come up with it. So that's a fun activity, but it's got quite an important sort of background. You know, this idea of estimating numbers, how do you do it? I mean, it's easy if the numbers are quite small, such as 4 or 5, you can sort of get a mental picture of those numbers. But if the numbers are larger, how would you estimate? Would you sort of divide the sheep up into groups or look for patterns? Well, I found it very interesting this month that there were 2 quite different, one radio program and one podcast talking about this very notion. So first, let's hear Chris Evans on the BBC Radio 2 Breakfast Show interview someone whose job it is to count sheep.
Yesterday, Chris, we were wondering about counting sheep in a non-going-to-sleep context. Your not-so-mystery guest on this Great Job Wednesday keeps his eagle eye on up to 7,000 ewes, rams and lambs a week. On behalf of the farmers of Great Britain, please welcome Sheep Inspector Stephen Hill.
All right, good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Chris.
It's all about the ewes, the rams and the lambs. So, you are an inspector of sheep, but that means, therefore, you also have to count them.
I do. That's part of the inspection, yes.
All right. So how do you make sure you don't count a sheep twice, 3 times, 4 times, maybe more?
Well, I try and find a vantage point where I can see as much of the field as possible.
Right.
And work my way across the field, counting one by one. I'm not afraid to count twice. The only sure way not to get them all is to run them all through a handling system and count them one by one, but we try not to do that because it stresses the animal.
Right. So it is sort of marginally approximate.
It is, and when you get to sort of large flocks, when there's sort of 400 or 500 sheep and they're on moorland or scrubland, then it becomes near impossible.
So you know that there's a thing, what's it called now? It's not Tipping Point, it's the other one. It's Blink. It's called Blink, and it's this book written about, our gut feeling, which actually is often more right than wrong because of how it's fed over the years and how it's there and how it's actually based on a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. And apparently some people claim this is also how deja vu might work. Do you think now, because you've counted so many sheep, you could probably glance at a flock of sheep and give us a pretty accurate estimate of how many sheep were in that flock?
I could often look at a field and get within sort of 20, 30 sheep. I'm not going to say I get it right every time, but yeah, I can get a fairly accurate figure and sort of say there's sort of 200-300 sheep out in the field quite easily.
Well, you're being very respectfully modest there, and I take my hat off to you. So if you did that, if you played that game with yourself, would you then go back and count them to see how accurate you were?
I do recount, but I'm often with the owner of the sheep who often tells me if I'm right, so I'm under pressure there quite often, so I need to get it right.
So there is genuine pressure involved in this job of yours.
Well, absolutely. Farmers have been inspectors there under pressure, and they want to be sure I'm getting it right. So it's pressure on myself to ensure I'm achieving the results.
Do you have tips for us laymen, laywomen, lay kids for counting sheep? Can you give us some of those, please?
Well, as I say, you need to get as high as you can, stand on the gate.
Yep.
Obviously, hinge end, you don't want to break the gate.
Hinge end,
so
everyone.
You can see as much of the field as you can.
Yes.
Start from one corner and just work your way across, counting 1, 2, and I literally count 1, 2, 3, 4. I count in hundreds and stop at hundreds so I don't have massive numbers going around my head.
Yep.
And I do whatever I can not to startle them. Sheep are a prey animal, and anybody who knows being near sheep that they're easily run into a group, and once they do that, you don't stand a chance.
And if that's not interesting enough, here from the excellent podcast No Such Thing as a Fish is some more information about counting sheep.
And in the book Gerd Lesher Bach, which we have downstairs, they talk about this guy Deza, and they say that he had an uncanny sense of quantity. He could just tell without counting how many sheep were in a field.
Wow. I mean, it all depends how many sheep there are in the field, because I like to think that below a certain threshold of sheep, I could just tell how many sheep there are in a field.
Well, this is interesting. So what is that number? Like, how many would you... You could definitely tell if there were 4.
I could definitely tell if
But
there were
if
4.
there were 12, by just looking, would you know there were 12?
No, I wouldn't.
No,
I'd
so
have to
what's
count.
the level?
7.
If they're standing in a 3x4 grid perfectly,
but I mean,
I could tell there were 12.
How often does that happen?
Very seldom, from my studies.
Because all you've really worked out there is that there's a 3 and a 4. You've calculated the 12.
I would instantly say there are 12 there.
Sure, that's because your multiplication tables are so good.
Thank you.
You should be a street performer.
Really low rent, 3x4 kind of stuff.
Give me any number between 1 and 4. This guy could do his sheep thing up to 30. Up to around 30, he would know.
He would literally just have a quick
27.
look and just see, right?
Yeah.
He must have been a real scream at parties, mustn't he? No, we don't want to go out of the field again. No, come on, just once more. Take me out of the field, I'll show you.
Or do you think he'd walk into your party and immediately go, oh, there are only 42 people here?
If you were in a party and you could tell how many people were there, and you could look at a plate of canapes and know exactly how many canapes are on the plate, you would know whether you had to quickly go for the canapes.
In my experience, there are very few people at the party, and I never have to go for more canapes.
You are listening to the Transum podcast. You can find Transum Mathematics at www.transum.org.
Fascinating. So there are these two sheep activities. One's called herding sheep and the other is called coloured sheep. So you can find the links to them in the newsletter, transum.org/newsletter. Now, if all this sheep counting hasn't sent you to sleep, you might still have the energy to explore the 7 new additions to the Transum website last month. Number 1, angle chase. This is sort of quite a complex diagram with lots of angles that you have to work out. This has been around for some time. I'm not sure where it first originated, but the Transum version is interactive. So as you type in the angles, as you find them out and press enter, you'll know straight away whether you've got them right or wrong, so that you can then go and work and complete the whole diagram. And I have found that it is also a good idea if you're a tutor with maybe one student, to play this as a game, taking in turns to find an angle that you can work out and fill in, and it just adds a bit of fun to the activity. Number 2 is snake sort. So there are a number of activities already on the Transum website about systematic linking, but this snake sort activity is one of the more basic ones, where a number of different snakes have been coloured in with different coloured patterns, and you have to sort of arrange them into sort of a logical order, so that if you had to, you could tell whether there was a duplicate or whether there was one missing. So that's snake sort. Number 3, indices true or false. Some statements involving the laws of indices, and you have to drag them into sections to show whether they are true or false. So that's a different way of practicing your knowledge of the laws of indices. Number 4, yes-no questions. some shapes, some graphs, and some words. And you have to work out what they are just by asking yes/no questions. So this is a game for 2 players, where one is looking at the object on the screen of a laptop, perhaps, and the other can't see it, but has to work it out by asking these questions. Number 5, combinations and permutations. Some extra exercises here, helping you learn the difference between permutations and combinations and using formulae to answer questions. Number 6, identity, equation or formula. A little activity helping you distinguish between these 3 types of expression. Another drag and drop activity there. And finally, number 7, a mathematical birthday card for you to download and print with a sort of a mathematical joke on the front and some mathematical oddities inside for anyone who's having a birthday in the near future that you would like to give some mathematics to. Okay, thanks to Felton Davies for sharing his work of a lifetime. On the Pentominoes page, Felton has created an algorithm to create 2,339 solutions to the filling a rectangle with pentominoes puzzle. They're absolutely fascinating, and he shared them online. You can see that on the Pentominoes page. And thanks also to Christopher Allen, who has suggested the following extension to the A number starter. When written as a word or words, the smallest possible positive whole number containing the letter A, you will find out is 101, which is surprising. None of the numbers less than that contain the letter A. And he asks, well, after 101, you get a whole pile of numbers that have got the letter A in it. So when is the first number after that does not contain the letter A? Thank you for that. The answer to this month's sheep owning puzzle can be found by setting up 2 simultaneous equations in its simplest form, I guess. And the answer is that currently Percy has 49 sheep and Patsy has 35 sheep. If you'd like to see the working, that's in the newsletter, transom.org/newsletter. That's all for now. Enjoy November. Bye.
Thank you for downloading and listening to the Transom podcast. You can find the website at www.transom.org, where you're welcome to use all of the activities absolutely free, or jump in with both feet and become a Transom subscriber.